I have to say Jensen is probably the best.
You're going to argue Febvin?
I'd say Jensen.
I agree with Jensen.
What most people expect me to say would be biased towards Bjergsen, but right now I feel it is Jensen.
I think in terms of lane, Phoenix.
High is at the bottom of the list. I understand he is not doing the best. He is not the best mid laner. However, he is also the shot caller for his team. He has 2 jobs. In this economy, you have to work 2 jobs to become amazing.
You know what? Actually, really surprised by that. We don't see TSM or CLG Jat today. Apparently, it's Cloud9 Jat.
Maybe Rio on for Jat. I put him lower.
I love TSM Jab, but I'm going to go with Marks on this one.
Both guys gave it to Jensen, so who put Bjergsen lower? So I'll give it to Jat today because he put Bjergsen lower.
I'm gonna go with Mark.
Jet.
Jet.
Chat.
Sorry, Mark.
Oh, man. See, we piled on there at the
Apparently
end.
got them on my side.
At the very end, that one group of people
Yeah,
just
all
is in love with
all
you.
in
Did
favor
you
of
sign them?
Jet.
Did you sign their stuff yet? Is that why?
Not yet.
Welcome back to the NALCS Countdown. We've made it back out to the arena to do another tier list, this time centered around the mid lane. You got some of the opinions from the fans and how they reacted to the tier list as they've already been released here in the studio. We're about to throw them up and get into it here as well.
And I want to give a big disclaimer. This is for the first 11 games of the split. It's not historical. It's not who's going to be better today. Bjergsen is probably the best player in the history of the North American LCS. It does not mean he has been the best player in the first 11 games of this split.
I don't accept that. That's impossible.
Well, you're going to have to get used to it.
Of course. All right, so with that out of the way, through the first 11 games of the split, power rankings, mid lane tier list up on the board. First thing to notice is that both of you actually have the same first 3 players in order, Jensen, Febvin, Phoenix. Let's start with Jensen, the guy who tops the tables, because just last week you guys were actually split on best mid laner in the league.
Yeah, what happened, Jat? Last week you had a Phoenix #1 on your All-Pro team.
Yeah, Jet, what happened? We'll get to Phoenix in a bit. He had a bit of a fall off since then, but Jensen has been just the consummate mid laner in this split. He has been winning lane every time. He has been playing around his team very well. He has been extremely flexible in the champions he can pick and succeed on. So he's just been as good as he's always been.
Yeah, absolutely an amazing lane player. Not getting as many resources this time. Last split, you knew him as like contracts ganking for him. Now he's roaming pretty well all over the map, as well as, like Jat said, playing different style picks. We saw that Zillion with TP in week 1.
All right, let's talk about the guy then that kind of took a step down in that sense. Phoenix, he's now dropped to 3rd on the list.
Right, and I think Phoenix's Fiora game exposed a lot of the weaknesses that have been covered up for the rest of the split, because I think Phoenix has been the best lane player by a number of metrics.
Right.
Forward percentage, CSD, it was kills before yesterday as well. He's been smashing in so many statistical categories, but you wonder about the depth of his pool, especially when he pulls out something like Fiora, and his ability to be a team player. Because so much of mid lane this year isn't necessarily about all of those metrics. It's about how do you ward, how do you roam, how do you team fight, not how do you 1v1 someone in lane.
And that's the thing. Bjergsen got a ton of crap from the community about his pink warding. Phoenix is almost no better at all. It's very similar statistics in warding, including pink wards. His kill participation is very low. He only picks lane-focused champions. He doesn't roam around the map very well. So while he is the most lane-dominant player in mid lane right now, he also has a lot of shortcomings.
All right, Phoenix dropping to 3rd means Febvin slots in at 2nd. Let's talk about the import.
I mean, this is a weird one to talk about because when you look at the stats, suddenly there's just no area that he's behind on. He's very highly rated in a number of stats, and then on top of the fact, when you do the eyeball test, he's always playing extremely well. Yes, he died a couple times last game, late game, but other than that, he actually has the lowest deaths of all mid laners, so he's able to get a lot of work done on the map from a very safe position.
And when I think about the way Clutch Gaming has won a lot of their games, it's getting to those late game team fights and having Febvin straight up outplay the other team in those very important moments. That's given them a lot of their wins, so that kind of catapults him up to that #2 spot.
All right, well, we've talked about 3 picks that you guys are in agreement about. Now let's talk about some differentiation. The 2 players that are about to face off on stage here, Power of Evil and Bjergsen.
Jat, you hate Bjergsen? I thought you were TSM Jat. What happened?
Well, right now, Mark, I got to say, this also, what's weird about this, and there's some nuance here, I actually think Bjergsen will probably play better than Power of Evil in this next game based on what he did yesterday. But if I look at the 11 games this split, I can't put Bjergsen above Power of Evil. As you mentioned, Mark, some of the worst warding stats in the league, not even that lane dominant, hasn't helped out many other lanes, hasn't actually had huge late game team fights, so he's been below his bar in so many categories that I can't put him above a guy like Power of Evil, who's got the most kills and I think is one of the main reasons they're at 4 4 wins for
You
OpTic.
talk about lane dominance. Power of Evil isn't even on that side of the coin for a lot of the stats.
Not that important.
It's not that important, I agree, but Bjergsen and Phoenix are, to me, the same side of the coin, or different sides of the same coin, where they're both very, very lane-focused, but Phoenix is a lot more aggressive, willing to take the risks. He's number 1 in solo kills for mid laner, but I think he's number 2 in solo deaths, whereas Bjergsen's last in deaths, and I think 6 in solo kills. So what I'm saying is they both play very lane-focused, but Bjergsen is just completely devoid of mistakes and getting punished. So I still rate him pretty highly.
All right, moving right along. We're going to go down to the bottom of the list. Huhi and Hai. I mean, credit where credit's due. Hai has to do 2 jobs, as we heard.
Yeah. And Huhi
if we
also
do a
has
shot
to
caller
go.
tier list, I guarantee he's at the top, all right? But for now, he's sitting in 10th. Explain.
Yeah, so I had Hai in 10th, and I think Huhi somewhere similar in 9th. So Hai, as far as laning goes, even though it isn't not super important, his CSD at 15 is the 2nd worst of any mid laner in the history of the league so far this split. Wow. Shifter back in 2014 was a little bit lower. So his laning has been a huge loss in map pressure, and that's what it really matters about, is because he hasn't been able to make the proactive roam plays, and then he doesn't have the items for the late game team fights. So it's been a tough split for Hai.
Yeah, same kind of with Huhi a little bit. I think Jat has him slightly too low, but they're both, they're team-focused players, and when your team is bad, it's really hard to shine. Huhi wants to play Aurelion Sol and roam to the side lanes, and we've seen them trying to execute on that strategy, but without any level of cohesion that we've seen out of CLG before. So they're not effectively snowballing Huhi's side lane focused picks, and then they just look awful as a result.
To put a capper on this conversation, just as 8.4 is just over the horizon.
Right.
Lots of mid lane item changes. Who are the players that you're looking at here that could make some really solid moves based on the changes and perhaps a new meta in that mid lane?
Only one way to go is up for some of the guys at the bottom. Huhi and Hai have been 2 guys that are very experimental with champion picks if we have some new stuff coming in from there. And then I still expect the top guys to perform.
Yeah, mostly the same. I expect Phoenix to do well as well because he's willing to take every champion to the very limit when you're playing these kind of things. And when people are learning exactly what their champions can do, that could work out well.
All right, let's get these players off the screen. It's time to make fools of ourselves on stage.
My favorite.
Jat, take it away for some Jat stats.
Yeah, all right, so I got 3 stats today. I'm going to ask you the first one, which we also asked some pro players. I'm going to let you hear their answers afterwards.
I love when other people have
But
to
the
fail
first
before me.
question is a mid lane focused question. Mark, I expect you to get this one.
Okay.
Simple question. Which mid laner has the highest jungle proximity percentage, which means their jungler ganks for them the most?
I believe I know this.
Which mid laner? Let's have Dash say it first.
Well,
then.
am I helping you again?
Yeah.
Are you helping me
Their
again?
team.
Have you
Yes,
ever helped
team.
me in this?
Well, sometimes. Not enough, admittedly.
Yes, we can agree on that. Okay, not Bjergsen, not
Nope.
Jensen.
Nope.
Not, Pobelter had really high jungle proximity
Mark,
yesterday.
what is your answer?
Power of Evil.
Is it? Okay, well, I'm going to believe him. He
Well-
was so confident. I'm going to say Power of Evil too. Let's get the free point.
I'm not sure. Let's hear what
I'll
the
take
pros
the
had to
free
say.
point.
It's him.
I kind of want to think it's like C9 or TSM, but that is a good question. Oh, it's probably Golden Guardians. Is it high?
I'm gonna guess that C9 has the highest jungle proximity.
I think just from watching Echo Fox games, I think Phoenix.
Okay, well, I haven't been in LCS much, but for me watching C9, I'll just go with C9.
Jensen or Bjergsen? Bjergsen just calls for mainly wards, but Jensen tries to look for a lot of like aggressive plays mid, so I probably think it's Jensen.
I feel like it's a trick question, so I'm not going to say like Jensen or Bjergsen or any of them. So I'm going to say PoE.
And Mark and
Let's
Dash
go.
got it. It's
Woo!
Power of Evil, highest jungle proximity.
Not
Canadian
so easy, is
has
it?
spent 27% of his 3 to 15 minutes within 1,500 units of Power of Evil in that mid lane.
Only reason I know that is the tier list because I had to do a lot of research. So.
All right, second question, multiple choice, so the crowd can get a little involved if they want to.
Please
It's
do.
a champion question. These 4 champs have led the NALCS in CSD at 15, more than 10 games played. Which of these champions has the best CSD at 15 in the NLCS? So the choices are going to be A, Vladimir, B, Gnar, C, Azir, or D, Skarner.
Ooh, this is tricky because Skarner.
These are the top,
That feels
4.
unfair. A jungle champion in this?
CSD at 15. These are the top 4.
So the reason it's interesting is because he's the fastest clearing jungler in the current meta.
Well, I
so
understand
it makes
that.
sense. Vladimir's usually only picked into matchups he smashes, and Huni plays a lot of Vladimir. Phoenix played some Vladimir.
This is like Price is Right. They're shouting
I'm
out Zero.
going with my
crowd.
boy who had high with the 2 jobs in the shot clock. He says Azir. He's going Azir. I'm going to go with it.
Mark?
I swear to God, if this is wrong, I'm kicking you out.
I'm gonna go A, Vladimir.
B, Nar. So close.
Get out of here!
Yeah. It's super close. Azir was at 11.4 and is 11.7 for Nar. All right. So
tragic.
Final question. This is a stat about bottom lane. So this is a one
I haven't done any research on bottom lane.
Right.
So
We spent the last 2 days top
there's a
and mid.
ranking. It is damage dealt per gold. So it's damage gold ratio. Like if you have a lot of gold, dealt a lot of damage, you'd be low for this. All of these 80 carries won yesterday. One of them for the season has the worst damage to gold ratio. So the 80 carries that won yesterday, we have A, Cody Sun. I hope we're going to get to this because I don't have it by memory. B, Apollo, C, Sven, D, Arrow, or E, Double Lift.
Why would you throw a 5th on there on a stat that we have never talked about?
Because
I'm
all
gonna
these
be
guys
honest,
won
I
yesterday.
only followed the stat halfway through, so I don't even really know
Damage
what
gold
we're-
ratio.
All right, it's not double lift. His DPM's really low. I already just know that. and I
Cody's
assume-
son had
So no,
disgustingly
it's
high
the
DPM.
worst.
It's
So you-
gold
Oh, you're looking for the worst.
For the worst.
Oh,
worst
It
in
potentially
damage
is, though.
dealt per goal.
I thought you were looking for
Yes.
the best.
So you're
Okay.
looking for who's getting resources and not dealing damage is essentially
Correct.
what
Yes.
we're looking at. So you're
So-
going with Arrow?
No, I was saying double lift. I know has low DPM
Okay.
A lot of
and gets
C.
some CS.
I might go.
Clutch
D.
has.
Gonna have to lock this in.
I think it's either C
I've already
or
done
E.
it. I'm E.
I'm gonna go.
Dash.
I'll go C.
It's E, Mark. You got it. Double lift. Somehow it's because, I won't say it's because double lift takes a lot of resources and doesn't do anything with them. I'll say it's because they end games quickly.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that lowers his damage stats, but because they're killing all the turrets, he gets a lot of gold.
Can we move on to something that
We're
you
moving
guys
on.
suck at?
Yes.
I don't.
Yes,
Great.
answer over.
Prediction.
We're not that bad.
Debatable. Let's get them up on the board. Let's see who you guys picked for today's matchups. We got some really interesting. Oh, actually, before we do that, we decided to play another game today. The inanimate objects haven't been doing so well against you guys, so I decided to bring in an animate object and/or person.
Let's go.
So we reached out to one of our PAs, Joel, one of our stage managers here on the show, to get some predictions. We're gonna roll that clip and throw them up on the board.
I like TSM. I don't really have a good reason for it, but I'm going to go with it. 100 Thieves. I think the whole team rocks Yeezys. Fox, Huni. CLG, Darshan is always really nice to me in the hallways. I can't go against that. I'm going to go with Clutch. I believe they're going to live up to their name today.
I mean,
honestly,
those are
with
really
how-
similar to my prediction.
with how random the LCS is, that reasoning's fine. That's totally
Well,
fine
I was about to
reasoning.
say, that's what I love. His reasoning's
Joel.
very concise. The two of you blather on for ages trying to justify your picks, and you're still wrong almost half the time. So, all right, let's talk about some of this.
+9.
That's almost half the time.
All right.
With a very
Fly Quest
liberal
100 Thieves
definition
game,
of
though.
almost.
Yeah, right.
But TSM, you guys are all in agreement there. Let's talk about
Yeah.
the second game, though. FlyQuest 100 Thieves. Mark, you're going with the FlyQuest upset.
So yesterday I didn't go with my gut, and TSM upset, and this is another one that's like a gut check where I'm like, 100 Thieves riding high off their win yesterday. They talk about having a great week. FlyQuest actually played a pretty close game to TL. If they were a little more decisive in their shot call, and they could have won it. So gut tells me it's going to be a come-down game for 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves smashed C9 yesterday. I can't go against him.
That's fair enough. The last thing I want to talk about real quick is I want to force you guys to justify that clutch win. Since you both picked C9, justify.
5-game winning streak for Clutch. You got to
There it
start
is.
giving them credit eventually. This game will basically, if they win this one, they're getting the credit.
I was going to say, is this the time? If they win today, do we finally call them solidly a top-tier team in the NALCS?
I think you have to if you beat the team that was formerly number 2.
Fair enough. One more thing to take care of before we get into games. Win conditions, TSM OpTic, rather. Ah! Was that at us?
No, he can't hear you, Dash. He's got the
No.
headset on.
Well, yesterday, Cloud9 was
Yeah,
paying
they saw the
attention to
screen.
our win conditions. I think these guys might want to do the same.
Anyways, my win condition, if I may, James, is I want to see...
You may.
Yes, thank you. I would like to see TSM smash top lane. Dokla had a good showing in his first game yesterday, but he still fell 40 CS behind. TSM is not known for smashing top lane, but I'd love for this to be the game where they make a concerted effort up there, take advantage of the guy playing only a second game, and number 2, these games generally go late, don't get outscaled.
All right,
Yeah.
Kat.
We actually double blind these win conditions and came up to the same conclusion. So mine for OpTic was don't get smashed top lane.
Stop copying me. You
and
did
then
this
also
yesterday.
don't get outscaled. The last time they played it went super late game, and I think Power People has stepped up since then. He needs to carry in the late game.
We got to keep you two separate.
We
more
were
often.
separate.
I love it. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That's going to do for the countdown. Time to throw it to the casters to get us into the day's games.
Oh,
Oh, sometimes you wish it just doesn't have to end. Thank you very much, Dash, and welcome for Champion Selective Game 1. I am Riving to Business III, joined by Aiden, Zyrene, Moon, and I'm excited about that as much as about these games.
Yeah, and I only work one job, so happy about that too.
You're going to have to work hard on this one. It's going to be a good game between OpTic and TSM. We just heard a little bit of that love. Power of Evil gets that help in the mid lane. Power of Evil versus Bjergsen has always been a thing that goes back and forth in favor of Power of Evil. We'll see if it still trends that way heading into game.
Yeah, it didn't work that way for Power of Evil last time that they met up against each other. Kind of Bjergsen got the better of that matchup.
That is true.
And
that is true.
It is evening out the record slightly over time, but I want to talk about the win conditions that both Mark Z and Jad had, where they had to focus the top lane, right? You're looking at Dokla, who just came in, and despite having a large CS disadvantage or difference at 15, I still feel like playing around the top lane is something that OpTic as a team doesn't really know how to do in terms of lane assignments. So today, I'm not just looking at Dokla's stats, I'm looking at where they put him on the map, because I don't think his stats were telling of his performance, but more indicative of an OpTic issue overall.
I think it helps a little bit that Dokla as well had Acadian and Elimination for a few of the Academy games in the beginning, so it's not the first few times he played with them. Had a decent game on Camille yesterday as well, but also saying to himself, I need to kind of now step up. I'm versus TSM. We're versus Haunter in that top lane, and if I'm not getting a lot of help, I need to be able to hold that lane by myself.
Yeah, and Haunter just had a pretty good game yesterday up against Huni in the top lane on Echo Fox, where TSM won against Echo Fox, giving them their second loss of the entire season so far. So TSM are coming off of that win, but of course there's actually been this kind of strange inconsistency for TSM. They have been consistently inconsistent, and if you go by their weeks, in week 1, they went 0-2, then they went 1-1, then 2-0, then 1-1, then 0-2, and now they have one win. If they go 1 win, 1 loss here, it's a complete mirror back and forth on their season.
So he's bad at these trending math problems. I mean, what's the next number? What is X? We'll find out right here, and it's going to be Bjergsen's Galio taken away 6-0-12 on that play yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good champion pick into Echo Fox in particular, and this just shows that OpTic don't really want to pick that for Power of Evil, want a little more oomph from him in the mid lane, things like the Syndra that he had played previously, as well as the Orianna that he got to whip out yesterday.
Possibly expect to see the Zoe coming in. Power of Evil doesn't want to pick that into his own hands. Something highly banned versus Bjergsen. Second ban here for TSM after the Skarner, hitting Acadian a little bit in the jungle to start things off, and they may just do that one more time before focusing on Power of Evil. No, it's top lane. Dokla gets that Gangplank out of there.
Yeah, I usually expect Gangplank to go into the ban category, potentially alongside Camille, but there are a lot of mid laners.
Yeah.
Zoe, like you said, could be a ban here from OpTic, and that leaves them with the potential to first pick something like a Camille, or they'll ban a different mid laner and potentially go for Zoe or Ryze themselves.
So many great picks up right now, things to leave up with the bans you're trying to focus. You're like, well, what's the worst? Right? What do we ban off and then get to deal with? Dokla waiting for the first hover. A possible Sejuani pick, and Acadian gets some safety in the jungle with the ability to make plays.
Yep, pretty neutral pick where you can pivot your draft wherever you want. And with Skarner out of the way, she definitely becomes top tier. And things like Jarvan kind of fell by the wayside. We'll see, though, if Mike Young goes for a Kha'Zix like he did yesterday with a lot of stealthy plays. I think the Kha'Zix was more for helping out your side laners, because when you have a 1-3-1 composition, Kha'Zix is the best jungler to have to assist side laners and dip into Fog of War and make it to the side lane and kind of go after the answers to your split pushers.
In and out. Kind of focuses what Mike Young came into the LCS showing us as well. A little bit more aggressive play, in your face, in and out, doing a little trickery as well. Kha'Zix allows for that. Ryze being hovered here, one of those picks we said most likely going to be in this game if it's not on that ban list. And Bjergsen will get the mid lane. Blind pick Ryze, no problem there.
And it looks like this is his second Ryze game of the split. First one, I believe, was his very first game. And so he hasn't whipped it out since he played in week 1.
I believe you're right. However, I wrote his name down instead of the champion.
Checking through the stats.
Bjergsen was 1-0-0 instead of Ryze's first game.
Yeah.
Make Camille getting locked in at 20 seconds now for Power of Evil. Usually kind of letting their time run down here in this first phase of the picks.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll go for the Cassiopeia. He has already played, I believe, the Victor once, went 8-1-4 on that champion. Went Fleet Footwork, but didn't go the tank build, went for Lich Bane. which he definitely likes with snowballing when you're ahead, and it helps you with your wave clear and kind of a burst combo as opposed to a sustain tank. So now Dokla on the same champion that he had yesterday, so once again, comfort for this guy who loves playing bruisers, and PoE on a mage that can wave clear but also affect those late game fights.
So scaling lanes coming in for TSM here, kind of holding out in the early game, keeps things safe. Ban phase 2 coming through. What will they decide? I already have mid lane for Power of Evil. He feels good on that Victor, and we heard might be seeing a little bit more of him as we've heard the mid laners kind of talk about around the scene. Because Tom Kench gets the ban.
Yep, Tom Kench potentially going after those supports and locking in something like the Alistar for yourself. Oh, sorry, they have the Braum already. And potentially going after the Alistar or the Shen as the next ban here. But I would have expected 80 carry bans against Arrow, considering the Varus is still up, the Tristana is still up, and OpTic will go after Mike Young's champion pool. Jax, Zach, I think are the two that really jump out as the ones after the Sejuani and the Skarner.
Slow ban phase. Just a little bit quicker.
Well, you always have to think about these. You know, it's always opportunity cost. You get one more ban here. What are you potentially leaving up? And it looks like they're just trying to block. They're trying to block a Xayah Rakan combo that could have come out here in the 4-5 spot for OpTic. That is something that you do have to be conscious of whenever your enemy has 2 picks back to back. So on red side, it's the first round for them, and then on blue side, it's both the second and the third rounds.
Still a lot of those 80 carries that he plays. I mean, Twitch, Kalista, Kog'Maw, Draven, and Kalista gets locked down by Rune Prison, so maybe not. All of these things Arrow still has under his belt, and now Sven ready to pick his bot lane, or possibly, or he has bot lane rather.
Yeah.
Ready to pick what is in that top lane or in that jungle, I should say.
The Kazakhs would be assisting a side laner, so I would expect maybe the Gnar to come out against the Camille afterwards if the Kazakhs is locked in, which it is.
So Mike Young kind of back on that role of being able to be aggressive and bring out what we kind of saw of him when he first entered into the LCS while helping his team out here.
Yeah, he got to play Kazakhs back in week 1 up against FlyQuest, and he lost. And then it was basically he was on Jarvan, Sejuani, Jack, Skarner duty for a while. And then he got to play Kazakhs yesterday, went 4-2 and 10 on that champion, and had a really good showing. And so we'll see what he's able to do here today on this Kazakhs up against OpTic, which their composition is looking a little more death volley with a little bit of a potential for split pushing from the Camille or Tristana in a side lane here.
Well, Tristana was still on that list to be picked up out of all the bot lanes. Didn't even say her. So many to choose from. So they have a little bit of tower damage as well if they, as you said, get those split push going and can spread TSM thin.
Ooh. Yeah, really good siege potential. Really good siege potential. Good opportunity to dive here with the Camille diving in plus the Taric ultimate to keep her alive. So I feel like OpTic, they're looking for death volley team fights. It's a very easy way to play League of Legends, is group up as 5 instead of coordinating people across the map.
Yep.
So we'll see what OpTic are able to do with Dokla here on that Camille, who would be their big split pushing threat if they wanted that win condition to turn online.
I think it plays to their flavor perfectly as well. Acadian likes to go aggressive, and he can basically do it on any champion. It says Sejuani, he'll still be in your face, and that feeds to Dokla, that feeds the Power of Evil, and lets Arrow and Lemon Nation do whatever until they're needed by the team. Gnar locked in for Haunter on the other side to give Dokla a little trouble in that top lane. Definitely a lane we'll be watching coming into this match. We did see that Dokla got to enter against Golden Guardians yesterday. A bit easier for him to start off in the LCS, but now he gets to test his match against Haunter on that Gnar. 5 and 6 TSM and OpTic Gaming 4 and 7. Could look to tie up these scores if OpTic finds a win here.
Exactly. You think about these teams where OpTic was struggling at the bottom, kind of back and forth at the beginning, trying to figure out, hey, can we get these wins? And they ended up dropping it. When they had things like one team fight, one ability from winning, their record could be very different, but that didn't discourage them, and they started surging here, getting 3 wins in their last 5 games. And so, one more against TSM here actually ties them in the standings against this team that has made the finals every NALCS.
So Zyrene, looking at these compositions one more time, we kind of considered that both teams drafted well yesterday, considering the champions are for their players, for the team, their style. Do we feel that they were both as well good drafts today?
Ooh, right now, just from a base standpoint, I actually like OpTic's composition slightly more because it's more standard. Wave clear, siege, team fighting, split push ability, and they have a good tank line. Whereas TSM, split push with the Rise and the Gnar, and then the Ezreal doesn't scale as well.
Right.
And Mike Young does have to get some kills early or assist, or else he risks falling off.
OpTic versus TSM, we are on to the Rift. Week 6, day 2, game 1. Let's see what these teams have for each other. What homework was done? Somebody went to bed earlier, stayed up last night. We'll know. We will know. Right down the mid lane, everybody sets up the line of scrimmage. Doesn't look like anything crazy will happen as OpTic spreads out, and so does TSM.
And so I just got a stat pull here for the top lane matchup. So we actually we track certain matchups and look at CS differential to look at things like, is this a counter matchup, right? And so typically people will say things like the Camille counters Gnar because she can get in there and has kill potential. And she does, but Gnar will typically, as the stat says here, have a CS advantage during the early parts of the game. At 15 minutes, Gnar averages up 9.8 CS against Camille. So despite it being one that Camille has that pressure in, Gnar, from an even standpoint, is able to get a little advantage early on average, and then it comes to those team fights and how you play it out there. But the Gnar usually gets a little bit of a leg up in this matchup.
I mean, that's a super pivotal point. If you were to have a level 6 with a Gnar ultimate and a Mike Young Kazakh's top, that's a dead Camille, especially if she doesn't have 6 yet. That disparity of minions is a quick level above 5.
Exactly. Having the shove will get you that level 6, level 2 a little bit faster. And so the Camille has to kind of keep pace. And having played this matchup a lot myself, the Camille has to find ways to get pressure early, and if she doesn't, she does have to seed the lane for a very long time. And she basically becomes a different champion when she has Trinity Force and her Tiamat, whether it's Titanic or Ravenous Hydra. She feels like a completely different champion, but early on, you do need to find some pressure windows and some trades, and not just completely seed it, unless the Gnar starts getting above you because you didn't play it correctly.
Well, looks like Concert able to get the lane, gets a little bit of that CS early as well, but only a few. Will mean a level 2. Could get some control over Dokla here as he gets a tactical sweep in. Nice early damage as he gets farm for farm and kind of hit for hit. Junglers both on their wolf camps as they start to head over to Raptor side, so we're actually going to get opposite sides of the junglers, and we'll see how that pressure affects as they complete their pathing.
It's interesting because the Sejuani, you typically want to start on the bottom side with your bottom lane, but since he has the machete, it's very easy for him, alongside fleet footwork and the attack speed from the precision tree, to go after all those single target camps, go after the Gromp, go after the blue buff. And so Cadian's just doing kind of a full clear here. Into a Hunter's Potion, actually. So he cleared his blue side completely. Is going to ignore his top lane here, and because it's going to get pushed in. And Dokla's playing a little bit safer because of that, and not going for aggressive trades.
Dokla keeping Hansard pretty damaged as well, so if they kind of did go for a trade, he might be able to make it in his favor. A little early for everything. Keeping things set up. It's nice. Put everything in order, and it might just work. Mike Young find himself on the top side of the map here for a little bit of vision, and he leaves the Scryer's Bloom as well. Doesn't really want to give himself up if he doesn't think he's been seen.
Yeah, Scryer's Bloom is that double-edged sword. You don't hit it unless you feel like you're going to get something for it. You hit it, give away your position, and that could be a lot of your pressure here, especially since you can see Acadian has already gone for a multi-camp clear here. Looks like he's got 5 camps down already, whereas Mike Young has 4 plus Scuttle Crab.
Ooh. So much hurt from the Raptors.
Yeah, Raptors. It doesn't feel good until you get Hunter's Talisman, or Hunter's, Talisman.
Right.
And when you do, it just feels great. They're basically a health potion for you as Sejuani. You get to W them, walk away, and they just heal you.
So now, kind of a mirror image here, Acadian trying to get that deep vision in, but he puts a forward pink ward, hoping to keep that vision for quite a while, and that's not really a brush you would walk through as a Kazakhs, if you will. You keep yourself on the sides, and you keep farming it out to hit the side lanes. Now coming around behind Bjergsen, he just saw a little bit of love from Mike Young in mid, so they know he may be out playing with the camps. Bjergsen's able to walk out of that. So same on both sides. A little jungle pressure to mid as we expect for Power of Evil, having that very high jungle proximity for himself who still gets love from Acadian. They're going to walk into Mike Young, and they got to know that's happening. The vision's on the bottom, but they say, we can still fight Mike Young if he comes into
Mike
this.
went in.
And he walks straight into it. Has to get over the wall. That's a quick hop for himself. Not too much trouble, but that did not play out how TSM wanted it.
No, not at all. Bjergsen has to blow his flash and heal, despite, he's going to have his Summoner Spellbook, so it'll be a little bit of a lower cooldown, but they traded 2 Summoner Spells on their mid laner for the one from Acadian, and Acadian is going to be a little bit safer in the jungle, so if he's able to actually find a revisit onto Bjergsen in the future, we're seeing that jungle proximity of Power of Evil come in handy there. A lot of the early action that Acadian was going for was around that mid lane. We saw like the last 45 to 60 seconds hovering PoE.
Keeping those numbers.
I also find it interesting that Acadian doesn't have Domination secondary, so he doesn't have Zombie Ward this game.
Quick lockup, almost getting both of those concussive blows down. If you want to continue on Acadian.
Yeah, it looks like he's actually opted out of that, and so he's gone for a little bit more in terms of scaling and some stats. So he's not actually worried too much about Zombie Ward, which is incredibly powerful on the current patch when you have Tracker's Knife. It's not as powerful on 8.4 when the Tracker's Knife was removed, so...
Maybe he heard TSM doesn't work.
Maybe, but Zombie Ward would definitely give you a pretty large advantage. And Dokla...
Like he wants to get aggressive. Little bop on the head as Haunter gets himself back into position to farm out the lane. 48-40 here as Dokla is able to make it back quick and apply pressure here within that laning phase, kind of cutting if Haunter can farm from safety.
Yeah, so he had a big wave pushing towards him. He gets to clear it out. And now there's a big wave here for Haunter. Is Dokla going to all in with that level 6? You were talking about the disadvantage.
Just hit it, hits it first, and there's no Narbar to hit the top. Haunter could be going down a little hop away. Does he go full on it? A 3v2 in mid lane as Mike Young gets stung up in the gravity field. Lemon Nation almost here to enter with the dazzle, but they get a quick rift walk out, and Dokla with low mana is going to stay away from this turret dive.
Yeah, because Mike Young went over to that side of the jungle, and Meganar is coming through for Haunter. So
level 6 there.
Despite the all-in from Dokla, he didn't get the kill onto Haunter or a flash. Woo. So it doesn't end up actually meaning a whole lot in the grand scheme of things.
Maybe get himself I call them what? I call them gummy bears. Ooh, they're delicious.
You should call them Starburst.
That's pretty good too. That's good too.
Look, the juicy fruit.
The honey fruits, as they are, as Kobe would say.
Yeah, they are actually the honey fruits. That is the canon.
A lot of the times, you just kind of forget they're there, and you're like, I wish I could stay in lane, I don't have health. Yeah. And you're like, oh yeah, those are there. Or I could have just kind of grabbed Scuttle and got a little HP back just from being out here longer and getting gold.
I thought they were going to be fought over a little bit more when we introduced them as a concept. Like, oh, if you have priority, it's so broken because you can just go there, get health and money, don't have to back. And it's actually not that insane, but it's still really good to have. I mean, it's just better to have than not, but people don't really fight over it that much.
But I am very particular about letting Scuttle get any of my honey fruit. That is absolutely a no-no. You must prevent that. Bjergsen back in the mid lane. Blue has been delivered over now, gives them an idea of where Mike Young is, but that's going to be the same here for Acadian. So it's a few mind games of knowledge that they can play here without really having the vision. About 8 minutes in as those buffs spawn again. Bjergsen with a quick push to lane. 73, doesn't have enough gold just to back yet, so it looks like he'll stay for a few more waves. 76-64 in the bot side, so TSM actually doing quite well here in the laning phase to hold steady with the team they need to get to the late game with.
Yeah, and Sven pushing out the wave there, looking for a roam or a back here. I would assume a back timer. They're always very particular about their back timers here. When I was watching the NALCS Lounge with Sven and Mithy, they were constantly talking about back timers. It's like, you can get a good back timer here. Force pressure. It's like, okay, I mean, you could do something else, but it's like, no, back timer. So he got a back timer where he got Tier and Sheen simultaneously instead of a very early Tier into a Sheen. So
it's a great back timer.
Kind of get both of them at the same time, which actually is a good back timer because then you have an offensive item and one that you're scaling up, as opposed to you just have a tier where the other guy has like a pickaxe or something. So you actually lose trades at that point, whereas with the Sheen, you do actually win a lot of the trades in the poke ahead of time.
That is a prime back timer. Something to write home about.
No matter what I say about them, just repeat that.
I love it. It's fun. Very fun to say. Mike Young making his way through the jungle now. Seems like we're going to get a little more aggression. Love towards the top side of the map. Maybe a dive onto Dokla here in a little bit. Meganar just went down, so it won't be for a few minutes as bot lane gets the rotation from Bjergsen. Looks like everybody's saying, yeah, no, maybe. Let's get vision first here, and we'll figure out what we'll do after that.
Yeah, people are kind of going after little power spikes. The Ezreal's not in a great spot to fight just yet. You kind of want to get that first item and use your Kleptomancy to get a little bit of a gold advantage before you fight or fight over a Drake. And then for things like Rise, you really want the Abyssal Mask in a tier before you start going and looking for all-ins. Same thing with Victor. Like, you really do need like a 3,000 gold per champion to really start looking for those fights, especially after what happened in that early part of the game where PoE blew his flash after Bjergsen did now. So waiting for some summoner spells to come back up and waiting for some item spikes here.
That was actually good on TSM to kind of force that as well. PoE having the advantage of 2 summoners in lane would have been a bit too crazy for Bjergsen to handle as well. Wards would not have just fixed that up. Catalyst there and tier for Bjergsen, so he can stay in lane for levels and for just piling up that mana. Backs now. We'll see what he comes to lane with here. Unsealed Spellbook. Possibly just stay on flash and heal. Yes, it does. And he makes his way back to lane.
Yep, doesn't have to swap out the heal for teleport because he isn't really getting shoved in here from PoE just yet. PoE has the second upgrade with both his E and his Q upgraded. So he has the shove and then he has the extra shield on his Q, movement speed, which really does make the fleet footwork work.
Yep.
We're back to the prime ward killing claps.
He knows. Dokla actually went pretty far to find that one. Good for him.
Yeah, I actually really like that as Camille. Is if you ever get lane priority, which he will with the Tiamat sometimes, just roam towards mid, look to use your ultimate, and then you can go for kills and fish for them. If you're not getting kills on your lane opponent, at least affect the map. And it's things that people used to do in Season 3 where they would roam from top to mid back when people didn't use teleport. You just keep going mid and trying to affect another lane. And that's exactly what Dokla was kind of doing there, especially since he doesn't have his teleport anymore, and Hansard does. So he's actually putting his team at a disadvantage here because he can't TP in here. And you can see that they brought Mike Young down to try and force this turret.
So overall, from that 8th minute when we kind of saw everybody on the left side of the jungle, or a little bit over 8, maybe 10 minutes, it was wards for TSM. Now they've moved a lot of wards bottom, but still have a full set of wards across the map as they continue to push. This now helps them get the bot lane. We see OpTic has tried to set up the defense, but TSM has still kind of put all these wards around the pinks. They can't be seen, and they're still getting vision. Interesting.
Yeah, there's just a lot of vision coming down from TSM in the jungle as they pushed up. And you can see Sven was able to push for that turret alongside Mithy. And a lot of that was the pressure that they were providing in lane. And Mike Young just had to kind of come down and visit while Acadian was on the top side. And they'll try to trade the Rift Herald for all of that.
Success.
Yeah.
Oh, Hansard just coming out of Mega Gnar. Possibly a slow here. Bjergsen wants it. Mithy's going to be there. Glacial Fissure is up for him if they wanted to get the ultimate in, but they do not follow through. This Hansard just gives them another what for.
Sven is by himself on the bottom side of the map, and they know that. They can't really find an opening on this Ezreal. He'll just be able to Arcane Shift and get away. And Dokla's actually going to face check it. Actually, super risky. He has a ward up.
Interesting. Doesn't want to use it.
He just used it there.
Yeah. Found him. Got a quick hit. The T-Mat strike keeps Mithy from backing. That actually affects bot lane here. They're kind of toying around, but Sven has been held here for a lot of damage on the turret. Mike Young's called down for a bit of respect on this play. And mid lane could be hit by Acadian and Power of Evil if they figure out that TSM's getting stretched in here.
Exactly. That back is actually huge, interrupting it. It's a bad back timer, Riv. Oh, no!
The bad BT, you gotta watch out.
TP from the back there. You're seeing Mithy is actually coming too. It's a double TP.
Bjergsen as well. Realm Warp coming down. OpTic had this on the kind of first few steps, but TSM has been able to read it and sees where it was going. Power of Evil having to get under the turret. Not where he wants to be. Gets locked down with a few turret shots as well. Arrow and Bjergsen in a 1v1, but that's easily his. And patience pays off for TSM as OpTic tries to get that dive they've been looking for.
Yeah, finally they end up looking for a dive, but TSM, Mithy, backs, swaps out with the Summoner Spellbook to get teleport, TPs alongside Hansard, and Dokla used his TP earlier to try and get back to lane to have some pressure because the Gnar was trying to go after his turret, go after his minion waves, and that actually put his team in a little bit of a disadvantage. It's something that you do in like solo queue and you don't get punished and people just match, but if the guy walks back, sacrifices like maybe 3 to 5 CS to keep his teleport, then you can make plays like that happen where you set up your team.
Bet you they didn't expect Mithy on teleport
No,
either as well.
I don't think they did either.
Spellbook will still get you like that in this deep into the game.
Yeah, it's a double TP here, and then you can see they engage, so that Power Evil and Acadian have to go a really long way around to actually get in there, and then the scoop onto Power of Evil. They'll pick him up. Bjergsen goes after Arrow here, off on the side, and Arrow already leaped and flashed away. So Bjergsen gets that solo kill onto him, because Arrow was in an awful spot once the TPs came through.
All that vision kind of paying off for TSM, having it in the top side and the bottom side. If there was any fog of war, kind of figured out that it wouldn't be enough for a champion to even be in at that point. And now TSM 2-0 with about a 3K gold lead, and they were able to grab that first Cloud Drake. So movement around the map helps. We were talking about how this helped Mike Young get to those side lanes, even more speed for him. So a little bit of escalation in that advantage.
Yeah, and a lot of this gold lead is from the 80 carry here from Sven, who's been doing phenomenally during this lane phase, up 17 CS, was able to power down that turret with the help of Mithy and Mike Young's guarding. He's up almost 2,000 gold now from the help of Kleptomancy and all the things we just discussed.
Rift Herald top side?
Potentially, the Rift Herald would knock down the turret, and he doesn't have too much time left on it as well.
Right, he's up to just a quarter left. He's got to use it in this brush and make sure he doesn't take any damage. They're going to have a rotation from TSM once they see Power of Evil as well making his way up. The majority stands towards that top side. Haunter no TP, and here comes a Rift Herald. Almost getting hit. Got warded out, but they are good to go.
This will be interesting because there is a TP advantage for Dokla. Oh, Rift Herald actually doesn't kill the turret.
Could they get another swipe? Just that hit? Oh no, they kill it down. Wow. So they do enough damage. True Shot Barrage just taking a few more hits as Sven focuses it, and they actually control the turret. Kind of meaning OpTic doesn't get the chance to move around as much as they want now.
Yeah.
They still have to focus on 3 outside turrets, 2, however, ready to fall.
They did enough damage to it because Shelly does a % of her HP, her current HP, to the turret, and they did about 1,000 damage to it before it actually charged, which saved their top lane turret. Hold on, they'll fight.
Now the retaliation. Glacial Fissure down, slows Power of Evil. Elimination, everybody in the same spot. Arrow tries to get back to the Cosmic Binding safety, and he does. Another jump comes in. He gets the Self-Summoner heal. Realm Warp does the party. Enter right on top of the heads of OpTic here. That's going to be Elimination and Arrow going down. TSM say we are still going forward, and the dive comp is getting dived on right now. Dove on, if you will, by TSM. OpTic, Power of Evil, keeps himself alive in the mid lane, but Bjergsen team did not look like they'll stop just yet.
Yeah, OpTic took so much damage at the very start of that. Arrow caught out in front, takes a beating from Mike Young, and then Dokla cancels his TP because it's already looking like a lost fight, and then Bjergsen re-engaged them.
Q missing, Power of Evil, Gravity Field down, nicely done. Whoa, Bjergsen going low, getting himself way too close.
Whoa.
Heal goes down, and he cannot flash out as it just came up.
It literally just came up. He was about 5 seconds away from being able to have flash there, but even in that situation, he's already dead to rights. He's caught out. Dokla got a turret, now he's trying to run away from Concert.
That's that situation where you say, at 10 seconds, you're like, I'm going to have flash soon. And then you engage 5 seconds too early, and you're like, oh, that was too soon.
You look down, you're like, all right, 10 seconds to flash. You go in, you engage,
go.
you root, you do all these things, you look down, 9 seconds to flash. Wait a second, that was only a second? That happens all the time where you're just like, really?
It's so long. Here's this fight again, though.
But watch Arrow's approach here. He's off on the side, and then he's going to take a lot of damage here from Mike Young on the opening. Goes over, gets hit by the Q from Ezreal, and then Dokla's like, okay, I'm not TPing in there. He cancels it, but then Bjergsen re-engages the team, goes forward, gets the root, and then that allows them to pick up Arrow and Elimination.
Now, you see the secondary as top lane just got taken during that replay. Power of Evil, they throw the Gravity Field down, and Bjergsen a little too heady on the play.
Yeah, it was a good hover from Acadian to be on that side, and it was bad for Bjergsen to feint towards that side because he didn't have control of that jungle. He had control of the left side jungle.
Holy wards for TSM as we come out of that replay as well. That bot side, even top side near the blue, completely envision a security system for TSM to keep themselves safe here. Question marks go down onto the Ocean. Drake Mountain was taken. I should say that was onto Acadian as Mountain was just taken.
I have to say,
now two Drakes to their
every
favorite.
time you're like, holy wards for TSM, or like talking about TSM's wards, I have to turn my meme brain off for a second. I'm just like, wait, is he memeing about TSM's team? Oh, okay, he's actually talking.
But they're real,
actually
there are
talking
wards.
about the real wards on the map. Ugh.
I'm a rare memer.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that.
Rare memer, big jokester.
You're like, you'll meme if it's like a quality one. It's a refined one.
You gotta get that, the essence of the meme. Coming up on 20 minutes in, it's still just about a 4K gold lead. It's 3-4. That's been held by OpTic, which means they're kind of holding on to things, but not making any ground just yet. TSM is still finding holes in this defense, and another one on the bot side is Haunter. Gets a free turret to himself.
Yep, Haunter gets that turret, and once again, lane assignments for Dokla. It's been a little bit all over the place for OpTic, and you can see the canceled TPs. Dokla is about, I think, almost a whole level down at this point. Yeah, he's about a whole level down at this point behind Haunter, and he's about 30 CS behind as well. And you're really looking to try and get this Camille to either have a split push advantage over the Gnar, which will eventually happen with some items, or you're looking to try and introduce her to team fights faster than the Gnar can get there, and that just hasn't been happening. So the teleport discrepancy has now been kind of evened up, and you can see that they both have them off the cooldown. So the next kind of point of action is really who gets there first, who is the initiator on the fight, and can they actually have a clean initiation? Because we are seeing some good items come through here. PoE now at 2 items with his completed Hex Core.
Yeah.
And the Rylai's. I need some water.
Look at all these. Clearage. The return on investment for finding the wards feels great. As a support, I love watching them all be cleared and placed. It's euphoric all day long. 21 minutes in. Remember, this game ties up these teams if OpTic is able to get that victory. Somewhere they didn't think they'd probably be at that point. Probably thought to themselves they'd be higher, but what a kind of tough start that they had trying to find the communication and find the way that it would work for them. Here, going to work for TSM as they get a nice round warp onto Power of Evil. And it does seem like this is kind of that point where if OpTic is behind, they kind of have trouble finding that next direction they want to go, what that next win condition will be from behind.
Yeah, and we were talking about split pushing at the very beginning of the game and how TSM played the Galio Kha'Zix into the split pushing, the 1-3-1 with the Fiora Vladimir that Echo Fox had. Kha'Zix plus anybody who can collapse on side laners is so good in split pushing. Yep. So if you find somebody in a side lane, 3 people show up there immediately. Power of Evil just got flanked by Bjergsen with Realm Warp and Mike Young coming in with the Kha'Zix Stealth. So being a split pusher against TSM's composition right now, it feels really bad because you're going to have a target on your back from this Kha'Zix that you can't really see coming.
We're starting to see little shades of this TSM we hear from scrims that are always kind of taking lanes. The stats we've been seeing now kind of pushed into the mid game, more towards the late game where, yeah, they win lanes. Yeah, they're kind of doing this, but they're not putting anything together late game. And now the vision is still kind of allowing them to do that. They've lost it now, so we'll see if they can re-put it back down on the side of OpTic.
Is that how you get the fans excited? The shades of TSM, 50 shades of TSM scrim.
Good God, Zyrene. Kids, Matt, there's kids. No pressure yet on this mid turret. Still, Bjergsen holding well out there. All that pressure, double summoners down in the mid lane to start things off. He's able to do 249 to 228, 247 to 208 on the bot side, as Arrow would have been pushing Sven and Mithy, and they keep their farm up as well. And we even saw Sven down there for that extended period of time before the teleport play, keeping his farm up, keeping that turret up for the team.
Yeah, Sven's been doing a fantastic job this game, and so is, I believe, Mike Young in figuring out where he needs to be at what time, because it's not always easy to track side laners and lane assignments of the other team and manage your own simultaneously. So TSM are doing a good job of answering what OpTic want to do and shutting down a lot of their options. And now it looks like a setup for Baron, where if they can find PoE here, things like this, where the Realm Warp is up for Bjergsen, there's potential for flanks, and PoE can't go too far up, and he can't face check by himself. So he has to call like a KD elimination, people over it. Look at that! Mike Young right on top of KD, and he doesn't even know it.
Ooh, Glacial Prison locks him up. Mithy, can't even save him. The shield is up, but Mike Young. Oh no, that's the turret going down. Yeah. I thought he died.
No, Mike Young had to flash
my eyes
away.
deceived me.
He had to flash away from that.
I only saw the kill sheet, and I looked up to the left. So he's alive. Mike Young lives. The turret goes down. Things are dying, just not people. 24 minutes now, and it's the mid lane they want to try to get here. Concert doing so much work on the other side of the map and making things work for the team.
Yep.
We're going to see if Bjergsen can start to do that on the top side now as he pushes in. And Dokla, a little respect paid here, but Concert will probably still take this fight pretty good.
I actually think Dokla's in a really good position once he gets the Ravenous Hydra. That'll turn him on in terms of the split push build, and he'll be in a really good spot to deal with the Gnar and keep tabs on him, especially since he's at level 14 now, where you'll have the maxed hook shot, and he has 4 points in precision protocol. So when he hits level 15, he'll have the max Q and E, which really help Camille out. You want that gap closer and that primary damage ability maxed before you can really kind of deal with the Gnar.
And is there anything in the situation that you actually have to dodge, have to make sure you're missing? Maybe a few boomerangs, or can you just take it all out?
Whoa, you can't be doing that.
Oh, not a 3v1. Blast going back over when you kind of make the other decision. He wishes he made that one first, and not going in. We see Dokla going down as he gets a little ahead of himself there and kind of leaps before he looks.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect way to put it, Riv. Leaped in, he has a control ward, and he had a few seconds before his warding totem, but they're just able to go after him and collapse, and here's a TP onto Acadian.
Oh, slows, hyper, flash, Midi over the wall with the flash. Glacial Fisher to lock down the remaining members on the caboose of the exit train from OpTic, and that one falls right off the rails. TSM to Baron.
TSM are finding those little cracks in the armor for OpTic, and they are just making them huge gashes, making it so that Dokla, one mistake, huge punish across the entire team. He got caught, they get to make a TP play on the other side, and they get Baron.
Seems like everything TSM is kind of putting on their plate, they get with little struggle.
Yeah.
This one, they put themselves in a little bit of a position and then say, we have the control of the fight.
But watch this from Miffy. The flash ultimate tags Acadian. Even if Acadian wasn't going to flash there, he still has to go over a slow zone, and it really does cut off options. So it's a fantastic ultimate there from Miffy and the flash. That was beautiful.
Not giving really OpTic a chance to breathe in this situation. You know, OpTic set up a bushwhack on the bot side. Nobody is going to try to take down Dokla just yet. Oh no! It's Hanser! Walks into the brush. He's going to face check and go down. OpTic also trying to pull things out of the woodwork here for themselves as TSM grabs another Drake.
Yeah, Sven was on the top side, so they're able to make a play, and even if that gets turned around there, they have a 4v5 in favor of OpTic having the 5 members. So they'll get bot lane priority, but they trade it for mid lane priority here. And that Baron buff is going to do a lot of work here to help them get damage on this mid turret.
Mike Young checking the sides, making sure they have an exit path here, and also making sure you can get to Sven if they need protection. Arrow, rapid fire on. Oh, Minion just didn't get there in time. Gets himself shot, but he'll get that bottom turret down. They gotta work quick though. Arrow backs off. He's gonna be with the team. 2 turrets now falling with that Drake here for TSM as they make their way. Maybe not bottom. They say that's enough. We probably have a good chunk of change to spend.
Yeah. Since they don't have Hanser and he doesn't have teleport, he couldn't reinforce them if they went for an inhibitor or inhibitor turret. But if you look at the build that Hanser has here, the Phantom Dancer, it's actually become more and more common for Gnars to build this somewhere in their build. You usually see it 5th or 6th item, not always 3rd, but this is so he can answer Camille in the split push for longer, because eventually Camille takes it over in the 1v1, but this really does lower your team fight prowess, but it increases your ability to deal with Camille in the side lane and pushes back that timer further for when Camille is threatening your split push and pushing you out and threatening your turret, so Gnar can actually have the advantage for a little bit longer here.
These 3 wards down on the bottom left. Wonder if these teleports will be used all over from TSM. If they've had a few where they just appear behind OpTic, and if it's not the wards they appear behind OpTic with, it's Realm Warp. The map control has just been insane here for TSM this game, and now they get to start their own split push on the side lanes here with Bjergsen towards the top, and Hanser just doing what he's been doing on the bot side. The team now joins him as Baron is down, and nice move as Sven, he has something in mind and finds the rest of OpTic hiding in the brush.
Yeah, Bjergsen is going to split push on the top side. The lane assignments for TSM seem fine, where they're getting gold onto their solo laners who can join, and then there's kind of putting their 3 other people on the bottom side here. And for OpTic, I actually think this is an okay position for them. It sounds strange to talk about, but in terms of overall strategy, hold on though, Bjergsen.
Great catch. OpTic's been waiting to get one of these of their own. Bottom lane's getting hit pretty hard. If they can't take down Bjergsen, this is so much of their resources for nothing, and he is able to walk out Seraph's Embrace on top of his own shields, and TSM still gets to add the pressure on the bot side.
He's pretty tanky. He's very tanky.
Very, very.
Able to get out of that with just using the Ghost and walking away at the very end. Had a lot of movement speed. Even with the Rylai's, still wasn't locked up for long enough.
Those Merc Treads.
Yep.
Skitter right out of there. Give it a little shake and you're good to go. 30 minutes. Actually, TSM making quick work of the structures on the map right now. OpTic not finding their way in. Can't even get onto Sven. Playing too safe in the back when he knows his team walks away. The communication just seems to be seamless here for the way TSM is playing, and they're not going for more than they can handle at this point. They're just doing what they can, and it's working perfectly.
And I do kind of want to take a moment to explain this because, like I had said, I actually don't think this is an awful position for OpTic. They're down 10,000 gold, but the map is condensed for them. They haven't lost any inhibitors yet. And so when you have to defend things, having all of it really in a concentrated area is much easier to rotate between top, mid, and bottom when you only have to walk 10 feet instead of reinforcing tier 2s, tier 1s, and having to go through your jungle to do so. So the only thing that OpTic really have to leave their base or their safe place for is the Baron or the Dragon. And the Baron is not up for, I think, about 3 more minutes here since it just fell off, or 2 more minutes. And they really don't have to do anything except farm for now. So I think OpTic are in an okay position, especially since the scaling of Victor will just increase to the point where he could potentially one-shot something like the Ezreal or the Kha'Zix later in the game. And the Tristana is just now at that 3-item point and is going to get stronger. So it's not completely smooth sailing here for TSM. They still have to worry about OpTic's timers and how they crack this base, because they aren't a very intensive wave clear composition, right? They don't have the Victor laser clear everything out like OpTic does. They have a Ryze that has to set up his wave clear, right? And he's kind of the biggest source of wave clear here, and it's not even that effective. So I think OpTic can turtle up, but these Barons really do have to go to TSM if they want to clear it out, or they have to find ways to use the Baron timer to find base pushes. I
think really without visioning, OpTic's doing a great job at, you don't really see a team get that push out to second tier turret all the time. They're farming right in front of that Nexus turret, so they're even buying a little bit more time, trying to find out where TSM may be, and putting down wards they may not be even able to secure.
Well, at this point, you go, I don't even care if they have my jungle now.
Right.
It only matters in a minute. So we don't have to face check them just yet. And you can start getting these items in, start working on it. You see Arrow now has his last Whisper. And a death cap now for Bjergsen. So Bjergsen is in a fantastic spot in terms of his build. They do have to worry here about what OpTic is capable of doing in the defensive position. But now, with the Baron coming up, now, OpTic in these team fights, their positioning has not been good all game, and they really have to figure out where they're going to place Arrow in these fights and keep him safe. Because this Tristana's been going down very quickly.
Makes it tough as well, because you want Power of Evil to kind of disrupt everyone's positioning with Chaos Storm, but he's getting pushed around by Haunter. Bjergsen can walk right at him anyways and make him not stand still, so Chaos Storm is kind of out and stays. He can't click it around too much. Gives Arrow, as you said, a little more trouble to find positioning. And then it's on Lemon Nation to hit the perfect Cosmic Radiance as everybody's in that chaotic jumble being thrown around. Definitely a difficult position to be in, but you're right. They're kind of getting fed the resources right now, making themselves that much stronger.
Yeah.
We'll see where the point they can get to before TSM really can break the base. They do have good clear. Arrow, Power of Evil, even with that Baron, without Baron.
The jump. And Bjergsen's here, though.
One hit. Oh my word! 100-0. Haunter kind of just took a Polaroid there during the situation. Hopped right out of the Glacial Prison, reaching a little bit as they thought they had TSM on the run. But TSM's just looking for more fun.
Yep. Has Dokla going for an aggressive play there. One of the criticisms of him yesterday that Jat had levied was, go for that play when you're that Camille up against, the Elder Dragon was the situation. Go in, be aggressive, and he wasn't. There, he's too aggressive without the resources or the timing of his team, because Acadian looked like he was going to get there first, but it was just off a tiny bit in the timing.
Baron goes. Oh my word. Heals and shields coming down. Bjergsen almost really half-shotting.
Acadian's coming around the side. They're going to leap in and try to go.
Baron minions come up. They'll be able to slalom in and out of these minions and use them as defense. Arrow very low. Acadian tries to put himself in between as the meat wall. Doesn't want that damage to come through. The tankiest person goes down first, and here goes the rest of them. It's going to be a lot of damage on the Power of Evil. Haunter looks to lock this one down for himself, and he just pounces on his target as TSM play with their food.
Oh my God. Bjergsen does so much damage when the death tap came through, and he just obliterates everybody. And the rest of the team is pushing for the win.
TSM on the top side, making plays across the map. Almost impossible to keep 100 HP against them right now. Dokla finds himself even under that on the fountain as he tries to find a little bit of solace. Hextech ultimatum on Haunter. He says one more 1v1. Mike Young. Got to be the scumbag and intervene. It's going to be the Nexus going down, though. TSM moving to 6-6 as they take down OpTic.
And get themselves a 2-0 week and break the streak of having those weird weeks for themselves.
Yes, they did.
OpTic gave up that defensive position, went for some aggressive plays in the game at the very end there, and TSM were ready to counter.
Man, I think they knew about the Acadian pressure mid lane as well. At first, they kind of didn't consider it, and it was very scary. Bjergsen, double blow on the Summoners, almost got Mike Young to go down on that invasion that we first saw with Acadian and Power of Evil. And then, quickly, the boom 1-2, it turns around. There's a play in the mid lane, they get Power of Evil's flash, that lane evens back out, Bjergsen's able to get ahead, and the roams start coming in mid-game.
And this kind of looked like the TSM that people were thinking would arrive at the beginning of the season. Bjergsen played phenomenally well on that rise. We saw Sven and Mithy, that bottom lane, looking fantastic in that 2-on-2. They got that very early turret with Mike Young hovering it. Mike Young was aggressive, and Haunter was able to not just win that split push for the beginning of the game, but win it throughout the entirety of the game.
Dokla as well, playing quite strong towards the top side. Didn't really get kind of too much pressure either way. It seems like Dokla and Haunter were kind of left to their own, but Haunter knew towards the late game what, in a sense, not even on Dokla, what his team wants in the end, what that split push becomes for TSM. And once you're a few steps ahead and getting to the lane faster, getting to the turret faster, you saw him just taking turrets down by himself as OpTic was trying to repair what was happening on the other side.
Dokla, in terms of a report card for the first week, I think his first game was decent. I think that the CS disadvantage was not really his fault and more of an indicative of a team thing. And now it feels like there are a lot of issues where the teleports, putting his team at a huge disadvantage. It was very visible that OpTic had to kind of play around the mistakes that Dokla made.
And towards mid.
Those are mistakes that last for 5 minutes and affect the whole map. When you don't have TP up, they do, and you used it to get back to lane. When you canceled your next one, there's a lot of issues that go into that, and it really does put a break on your team's pressure. And so they're playing from the back foot, and a decent amount of that is Dokla, but it's not just his fault. We saw a lot of issues with positioning in team fights, but I also think that when it got to the later parts of the game, we saw a lot of those trigger pulls, whoever's call it was, look like OpTic were in a position where they could turtle, and they opted not to, even though they had been doing that for a lot of the game.
It's kind of, they kept putting themselves in a fight they thought was theirs, and TSM's like, welcome to the fight.
Yeah, pretty much.
Welcome to the fight.
4v2, oh, this looks like our fight. No, Bjergsen's not having that.
And in those situations, you kind of want to take it and get out. You know you need to get out, but somebody has to be the initiator. So when you go down, it looks bad, and it looks like, why did you do that? We're like, well, I had in mind what I wanted to do. But it just doesn't go that way, and it seems that is the way it played out for OpTic, but played out in the W for TSM. And right now we're going to set it over to Avali and TSM's Void Reaver in the jungle.
Thanks, guys. 2-0 weekend for TSM. Picking up the results from this weekend, are we getting closer to seeing TSM at their true form?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Like, we came off of a 0-2 weekend, and then we were able to bounce back. And I think that's the best part about it, is that even though we were 0-2, nobody was like slacking off. Nobody was like super depressed after the 0-2. Maybe I was a little depressed after like Sunday. So like Sunday night, I was just like sleeping. It was like really, really frustrating just thinking about my past mistakes. But I just knew that if I was just gonna stay in bed and if I was just gonna, stay depressed, that I wouldn't get anything done. So pretty much Tuesday when I went into practice, I recognized all my mistakes, all my failures. Like, I put most of the blame on myself. And even though some people think that the blame is going to hurt me, and sometimes it can be like really hard to overcome it. For me, I think that like the pressure of, you know, making a mistake, losing a game will only make me better because it's always in the back of my mind when I practice now. If I do this on stage, then I'm going to throw the game for my team. So I try and be a little bit more and even more like diligent in practice. So yeah.
Now, it sounds like you're incredibly headstrong in taking on whatever blame you hear and working on improving yourself. But do you have any other means of support, maybe throughout the team?
Well, actually, last week I met Weldon for the first time, and I had help with Les Boy and the team overall. So that was really helpful.
And I want to ask you a little bit about your play style. The last time that I spoke with you, you told me that you were playing with no regrets. Are you still working with that, and how's that working for you?
I actually got a little bit lost with my play style when, like, for the past few weeks, I kind of like lost my identity. I kind of was trying to like try too much to be, you know, like no mistakes, trying to play vision control, objective control, playing, you know, for the team. But I felt that that's not always the best way to play. You just have to play. Sometimes you just have to play with the feel, and you have to play with like what works and like how you practice in solo queue, how you practice, and how you normally do things. So I think that's going to help a lot if I just focus on everything and just myself.
Well, congratulations again on your successful weekend. For more on that game, let's hear from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avli. TSM bouncing back to move to 500 at 6-6 conclusion of Week 6. How fitting. Nice to hear from Mike Young there about kind of the reframing of the mindset coming into the week of practice and what he's at least been focusing on as an individual to get back to a little bit more of that aggressive play style that we once knew him for.
Right, we were watching TSM Legends together, and there was some clips. It was an episode specifically about him, but there was an unbelievable amount of discussion around the jungle. We're not sure if it was edited that way because it was about him or if that was the primary focus of some of their post-game discussions, but there's clearly a ton of pressure on this kid's shoulders, and it's nice to see him come out and have a good game despite that, and hopefully he keeps learning and improving. And it's nice to hear that he's also talking about being aggressive, being himself, not over-analyzing my plays, and sometimes just going with your gut, which is important as a jungler.
All right, but if we dive into this game in particular, I want to get a refresher of your win conditions as we pull them up on the screen here. There was some focus around the top lane as well as scaling. Obviously, that's not the only way to play the game. Do you feel, one, that these teams latched onto the same win conditions, and if they did, how well did they play to them?
I thought that what OpTic went for. They early picked the Camille, which they felt like was a power pick, didn't get crushed in the first 10 to 15 minutes. And also with Victor Camille, Tristana, you think they're going to outscale pretty well. But then the old execution hit him right in the face.
Damn, that execution.
Yeah, it was the kind of thing where, like Jat said, the first 10 minutes were going pretty well for OpTic, pretty even CS mostly across the board minus their bot lane. So I was like, I'm a little scared as the guy who had the TSM win conditions. And then Sven and Mithy start dominating the bot lane on their own. They get that turret, and it sets up this really crazy play that's going to happen in the top lane.
Right, 14 minutes in, we get all kinds of craziness. Mithy up in the top lane, going to end up with basically a 5v5, 5v4 in the bot lane.
Yeah, off that bot lane pressure, TSM are going to grab the dragon. OpTic want to answer on the top side with the Rift Turtle, but they get caught out a little bit.
Yeah, and notice Mithy has roamed up because the bottom turret is gone for them, and TSM still has their own turret. So Mithy now is disrupting Dokla's back for a while to get a little bit of top lane pressure. And I can see what OpTic is thinking here. They're thinking, man, this support is spending so long up here, we're going to get bottom lane turret. Dokla, interrupt him again. And as we're watching it, I actually think, man, what is TSM doing? This means OpTic is going to prep a dive bottom lane. They're going to 4-man. But Dokla doesn't have TP. TSM has TP on the top laner. And Mithy has unsealed spellbook. So they actually use that bait in the top lane of thinking they've made a big pressure gap and turn it around by collapsing 5 people in the bottom lane in an instant.
And this is why the crush top lane win condition kind of actually played out. There's no TP on Dokla there. He ends up, after that play, still down 30 CS about. So TSM didn't go up in the top lane and just kill Dokla 10 times, but it was the power difference in the top lane that resulted in some of that big play that eventually blew that game open. Like we said, 10K lead before 30 minutes.
Right, a nice move there by TSM. Picked up 2 kills, were able to save that bot turret as well.
And I just loved that play from TSM, especially because it tricked me in the moment. And I was like, man, OpTic, they should punish this, right? You can see the wheels turning for OpTic. Send the mid laner down there, get the jungler down there. And I hadn't been tracking Dokla's TP, and that's on Dokla when they're talking about going for that 4-man dive. Bot be like, I don't have TP, Nar does. And that should immediately be setting off alarm bells. And the bottom lane for OpTic should be thinking, they have Unsealed Spellbook. Like, you need a really good team to be able to stop that play, but it's really clever by TSM to surprise them with that double TP.
It was the kind of play where, as OpTic, if it's just your down TP, but you have the positional advantage, you think you can still force that play. You finish the turret off, your mid jungle, is already wrapped around behind them, and even if the TP comes in behind you, you just kill the guys under the turret before they show up. But because it was the double TP, because TSM reacted well, just a really great play by them.
All right, last thing I want to talk about here is the fact that TSM did pick up the 2-0 week on the back end of an 0-2 week. So moving to 6-6, how do we feel about this roster, having beaten the #1 team in the league yesterday and showing some smart macro play today?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking during the game that this is kind of the type of game you expected TSM to have at the start of the year with their roster, and they haven't shown that. Mind you, OpTic was playing with a new top laner. Their draft didn't look amazing until they started executing very well on paper, and then they just kind of seemed to outplay them. So it's definitely good for them as far as solidifying their playoff chances, because they needed to have it this week, and they got it.
Yeah, especially with the fact that this game came off a lot of team play. It wasn't just, oh, we smashed everybody. Their individual dominance was still there, but they've been doing that all split long. Now they actually put it together into a real team play.
All right, there you have it. Up next, FlyQuest try to take down 100 Thieves, so don't go anywhere.
I have the highest jungle proximity of any of the junglers, by the way, to my laners. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you always behind.